Stay silent and focus on yourself. Watch how life shifts in your favor. Everyone. In a world where everyone is talking, posting, proving, and performing, silence has become a rare power. But when you choose silence, when you choose to focus on yourself, rather than proving yourself, something incredible begins to happen. Your energy shifts, your peace deepens, and life itself starts to work for you, not against you. Silence protects your energy in ways most people don't realize until they experience it. We live in a world overflowing with noise, constant opinions, endless scrolling, arguments disguised as conversations, and a pressure to respond to everything instantly. Every ping, every post, every comment pulls a little piece of our attention away from what truly matters. But when you choose silence not as avoidance, but as awareness, you begin to reclaim that energy. You stop scattering your focus in 100 directions and start gathering it back into yourself. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the choice to protect your inner world from the chaos of the outer one. You start realizing that not every comment deserves a reply, not every conflict deserves your reaction, and not every opinion deserves your energy. The truth is, when you engage with everything that tries to provoke you, you lose a piece of your power each time. People who drain you feed off reaction. They want your attention because your attention is energy. Silence denies them that power. Silence says, I am not giving you control over my peace. It's not about ignoring others. It's about valuing yourself enough to choose peace over drama. When you stay silent, you create space to think before you speak, to breathe before you react, to understand before you assume. You move from impulsive emotion to intentional response. This shift in energy changes everything: your relationships, your mindset, and your emotional balance. The loudest person in the room often feels the weakest inside, trying to prove a point or control perception. But the person who stays quiet, calm, and observant carries a presence that speaks louder than words ever could. Silence builds authority because it comes from inner strength, not the need for validation. Silence also protects you from the emotional exhaustion of overexposure. Constantly explaining yourself, defending your choices, or sharing your plans invites unnecessary opinions and negative energy. When you learn to move in silence, you protect your dreams while they're still growing. Not everyone deserves access to your plans. Some will support you. Others will sabotage you, and many will misunderstand you. Keeping your moves quiet allows them to mature in peace without interference or judgment. Your goals need privacy to grow. Just like a seed needs darkness before it breaks through the soil. There's also a spiritual dimension to silence. When you stop talking so much, you start hearing more, not from others, but from within. You begin to sense what your intuition has been whispering all along. The mind becomes still enough to hear your own truth. In that silence, you find answers that endless talking can never reveal. You start understanding what truly drains you and what fuels you. You notice the people who bring chaos versus those who bring calm. You recognize patterns that your noisy mind once ignored. That awareness is power. Silence recharges you. It allows your nervous system to reset, your thoughts to settle, and your energy to return to its natural rhythm. Think of your mind like a lake. When it's disturbed by too many ripples, you can't see your reflection. But when it's still, everything becomes clear. That clarity gives you confidence. You stop second, guessing yourself because you're no longer reacting to the outside world. You're guided from within. Choosing silence doesn't mean you stop speaking. It means you speak with purpose. You learn when to express, when to observe, and when to walk away. You learn that peace is not found in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. In silence, you realize that not every battle needs to be fought. Not every insult needs to be addressed. and not every situation needs your input. Some things resolve themselves when you refuse to feed them with attention. So protect your energy through silence. Let your calm be your statement. Let your peace be your power. When you choose silence in a noisy world, you don't become invisible, you become untouchable. Focus creates growth, not just external progress, but deep internal transformation. The world constantly tries to pull your attention in every direction, tempting you to multitask, compare, and chase distractions disguised as opportunities. But growth doesn't happen when your energy is scattered. It happens when your mind, your time, and your intention align toward a single purpose. Focus is the quiet force that turns effort into excellence, dreams into reality, and potential into achievement. When you truly focus, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Most people wake up and immediately hand over their attention to their phones, to other people's opinions, to endless noise. But the moment you decide to direct your attention toward your goals and guard it from distraction, your life begins to shift. You start noticing how much of your time used to be wasted on things that didn't serve you. Focus helps you separate what's urgent from what's important, what's loud from what's meaningful. Growth requires that kind of clarity, the discipline to say no to everything that doesn't align with where you want to go. Focus doesn't just sharpen your productivity, it strengthens your character. It teaches patience, resilience, and self-discipline. When you dedicate yourself to one path, you encounter challenges that test your consistency. You learn that success isn't about speed, it's about direction. A focused person might move slower, but every step has purpose. You're no longer jumping between unfinished goals or giving up when progress feels slow. You understand that growth takes time, and that mastery requires repetition, not constant reinvention. In a world that glorifies busyness, focus feels rare. People mistake motion for progress, but moving in 10 directions at once often leads nowhere. True growth comes from moving in one direction consistently, even when no one else understands why. Focus teaches you to delay gratification, to resist the urge to show results too soon, and to trust the process. When you pour consistent energy into one thing, your skill, your mindset, your business, your health, you create momentum. And momentum, once built, carries you further than motivation ever could. Focus also transforms your relationship with yourself. When you commit to something and follow through, you build self-trust. You begin to believe in your own ability to create change. Each small victory reinforces the truth that you are capable of more than you thought. Growth is rarely visible day to day. It's built in silence, in moments of focus when no one's watching. It's in the early mornings when you choose discipline over comfort, the late nights when you study instead of scrolling, the quiet hours when you invest in your future while others waste theirs. Another power of focus is that it amplifies learning. When your attention is divided, your understanding remains shallow. But when you focus deeply, you absorb knowledge faster and retain it longer. You start seeing connections, patterns, and insights that others miss. Focused attention is like sunlight through a magnifying glass. It can ignite anything it touches. That's why focused people appear so far ahead. They simply channel their energy in one direction long enough to break through. Focus also protects you from comparison. When you're deeply engaged in your own journey, you stop looking sideways. You stop measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. Instead, you look inward. Are you better than you were yesterday? Are you moving closer to your purpose? That mindset shift is where real growth begins. It's no longer about winning against others. It's about winning against your old self. And finally, focus brings peace. When you know what you're working toward, the noise fades. You don't feel lost or restless because every action has meaning. You no longer chase everything. You attract what aligns. The people, opportunities, and results that match your focus start finding their way to you. So, focus creates growth, not just the kind you can see, but the kind you can feel. It builds patience in your heart, strength in your mind, and clarity in your soul. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing what matters most with full presence and consistency. When your focus becomes unshakable, your growth becomes unstoppable. Silence builds self-control in a world where everyone is conditioned to react instantly. We live in an age of immediacy, quick replies, quick judgments, quick emotions. People speak before thinking, act before pausing, and react before understanding. But silence interrupts that pattern. It gives you space between impulse and action, between emotion and expression. That space is where self-control is born. When you master silence, you master yourself, because you are no longer ruled by the noise around you, you are guided by the calm within you. Self-control isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about directing them wisely. When you stay silent instead of reacting, you give yourself time to understand what you're really feeling. Anger often fades when left unspoken. Impulse often weakens when left unacted. Silence allows emotions to settle, like dust in the air. And once the air clears, you can see the situation for what it truly is. Those who react immediately usually regret it later, while those who remain calm often make wiser choices. Silence gives you the power to choose your response instead of being controlled by your reactions. In moments of conflict, silence can be your greatest weapon. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every provocation deserves attention. When you stay silent, you communicate strength without saying a word. People expect anger. They expect defensiveness. They expect you to engage, and when you don't, it disarms them. It shows that your peace cannot be disturbed by someone else's chaos. That level of control comes from maturity. It means you've outgrown the need to prove a point or win an argument. You've realized that your energy is too valuable to waste on things that do not grow you. Silence also teaches humility. It reminds you that not every opinion needs to be voiced. Not every situation requires your input. There's wisdom in observing, in listening, in allowing others to reveal themselves while you remain grounded. Many people speak to be heard, but few listen to understand. When you choose silence, you become more observant. You start to notice details others miss. Feel energies others ignore, and read people without them saying much. That awareness gives you control, not over others, but over yourself. You become less reactive and more responsive, less emotional and more intentional. Self-control built through silence doesn't just affect how you interact with others. It transforms how you manage yourself. Think of how many times silence could have saved you from unnecessary conflict, regretful words, or wasted energy. The ability to pause, breathe, and say nothing is one of the most underrated forms of discipline. It's easy to lash out when you're upset, but it takes real strength to remain calm when provoked. Silence gives you that strength because it trains your mind to pause before reacting. Each time you hold your tongue, you strengthen your emotional muscles. There's also a deep spiritual power in silence. When you stop responding to every external noise, you begin to hear your inner voice. You start understanding that peace isn't found in controlling others. It's found in mastering your own emotions. Silence creates that sacred inner space where reflection replaces reaction, where patience replaces pride. It's in that space that you learn how to handle life with grace instead of aggression. The world will always test your peace. Silence ensures it cannot take it. Furthermore, silence builds resilience. When you can sit with discomfort without immediately needing to express or fix it, you become mentally stronger. You learn to process emotions privately, to calm yourself instead of seeking validation or revenge. This emotional maturity keeps you grounded in situations that would make others lose control. Over time, this becomes your superpower, staying steady while the world around you trembles. Choosing silence doesn't mean allowing disrespect or avoiding truth. It means knowing when to speak and when to hold your peace. It's a conscious act of wisdom and understanding that words carry weight, and once released, they cannot be taken back. Silence ensures your words are purposeful, not impulsive. It gives you authority when you finally choose to speak, because people listen to the one who speaks less but means more. In the end, silence builds more than self-control. It builds strength, wisdom, and emotional intelligence. It makes you unshakable in a world that feeds on reaction. When you master silence, you no longer give your power away to circumstances or people. You choose peace over pride, patience over impulse, and purpose over noise. That is the essence of true self-control, not in how much you can speak, but in how much you can hold back. Focusing on progress, not proving, is one of the greatest mindset shifts you can make if you want peace, growth, and genuine fulfillment. So many people spend their lives trying to prove something: their worth, their intelligence, their success, their importance. They chase validation from others, hoping that external approval will fill the emptiness inside. But the truth is, no amount of proving will ever be enough for a world that constantly changes its standards. The moment you stop trying to impress others and start focusing on becoming better than you were yesterday, you step into your true power. When you live to prove yourself, your energy is scattered outward. You constantly think about how things look instead of how they feel. You post achievements to be seen, not to celebrate. You say yes when you want to say no because you fear being judged. You compare your progress to someone else's highlight reel, forgetting that every person's journey unfolds differently. The pursuit of proving becomes a trap, an endless loop where your worth depends on opinions that were never yours to begin with. But when you shift your focus toward progress, you break free from that illusion. Progress is internal. It's personal. It's about who you're becoming, not who's watching. Progress is measured in quiet moments, not public applause. It's the small, invisible steps you take every day, choosing discipline over distraction, patience over pride, consistency over perfection. You might not see the results immediately, and that's okay. Growth often hides in the unseen, in your mindset, your habits, your resilience. When you focus on progress, you stop rushing. You start appreciating the process itself. You begin to understand that greatness isn't built overnight. It's crafted in the everyday decisions that no one else notices. Focusing on progress also teaches humility. When you're no longer trying to prove, you're free to learn. You don't need to pretend you have everything figured out. Instead, you embrace being a student of life. You ask questions, seek feedback, and grow without fear of looking imperfect. The need to prove often comes from insecurity, from the fear of not being enough. But when you commit to progress, you realize you already are enough even as you evolve. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about improvement. Every day you choose to move forward, even just a little, you win. The obsession with proving yourself often leads to burnout. You overextend yourself to meet other people's expectations, and when they don't notice, you feel unworthy. But when you focus on progress, you operate from a place of peace, not pressure. You stop doing things for validation and start doing them for purpose. You no longer need to announce every step or seek constant recognition. Your work, your actions, and your consistency begin to speak louder than your words ever could. Quiet growth has a power that loud validation never will. Progress also brings clarity. When you stop seeking approval, you can finally see what truly matters to you. You begin to set goals that align with your values, not society's trends. You start creating from authenticity instead of imitation. This shift in focus transforms not just your results, but your entire mindset. You stop competing and start collaborating. You stop doubting and start believing, and most importantly, You stop rushing and start enjoying the journey. When you focus on progress, every challenge becomes an opportunity. Mistakes no longer feel like failures. They become lessons that guide you forward. You understand that setbacks are not signs to quit, but signs that you're still in the game, still learning, still evolving. Every small step counts, even the messy ones. Progress might not always be glamorous, but it's always meaningful. In the end, proving yourself keeps you stuck in a performance. Progress sets you free. It allows you to live authentically, grow steadily, and achieve deeply. You don't need to prove your worth, you only need to live it. Focus on becoming, not impressing. Focus on your evolution, not your image. Because the quiet truth is this: when you stop trying to prove yourself, you become undeniable. Your progress will speak louder than any words ever could. And that's when life begins to move in your favor, not because you shouted, but because you grew. Silence attracts clarity in a way that words never can. In a world filled with constant noise, conversations, notifications, opinions, and distractions, it's easy to lose connection with your own thoughts. We hear so many voices telling us who to be, what to do, and how to live, that we forget to listen to ourselves. But when you choose silence, you create space for truth to rise to the surface. Silence doesn't mean the absence of sound, it means the presence of awareness. It's in that stillness that the fog in your mind begins to clear and clarity gently enters. When you're surrounded by noise, your mind becomes cluttered. Every distraction pulls your attention in a different direction, making it difficult to know what you truly want. The opinions of others start shaping your choices, and you begin to live reactively instead of intentionally. But when you allow yourself moments of silence, when you step away from the chaos, put your phone down, breathe deeply, and just be, something magical happens. You begin to hear your own inner voice, the one that's been whispering beneath all the noise. That voice doesn't shout, it guides. It reminds you of what matters most. Silence helps you reconnect with yourself. In the quiet, you begin to notice the thoughts and emotions that often get drowned out. You realize what drains your energy and what restores it. You start to see which people lift you and which ones pull you down. The clarity that comes from silence isn't forced, it emerges naturally. Like the sun rising after a storm. Your mind becomes a mirror, reflecting back the truth you couldn't see when everything was moving too fast. Clarity also requires honesty, and silence gives you the courage to face it. Sometimes we avoid quiet moments because we're afraid of what we'll discover, our doubts, regrets, or fears. But running from them only keeps us confused. When you sit in silence and face your thoughts without judgment, you gain power over them. You begin to see patterns in your behavior, reasons behind your emotions, and lessons in your struggles. That awareness is clarity, not always comfortable, but always freeing. In silence, you also strengthen your intuition. The more time you spend listening inwardly, the more you begin to trust yourself. Intuition is often drowned out by the world's opinions, but silence gives it room to speak. It helps you make decisions that align with your true self, not just with expectations. You stop seeking endless advice because you realize the answers have always been within you. They were just waiting for quiet to be heard. Silence also clears emotional clutter. When you're constantly talking or listening, emotions get tangled. But when you pause and stay still, you start to process them. You understand what you're feeling and why. That awareness allows healing. Many conflicts, both internal and external, could be resolved if people took time to sit in silence before reacting. In silence, perspective grows. What once felt overwhelming starts to make sense. You begin to see the bigger picture, and your heart softens toward yourself and others. Moreover, silence enhances creativity and problem solving. When the mind is still, it becomes receptive.
New ideas surface effortlessly because there's space for them to appear. Great thinkers, artists, and leaders throughout history understood this. They made time for solitude because they knew that silence is where insight lives. It's where inspiration whispers. When your mind is quiet, it starts to connect dots that chaos could never align. Living with clarity doesn't mean having all the answers. It means understanding yourself well enough to move forward with confidence. Silence gives you that understanding. It teaches patience, the kind of patience that allows wisdom to unfold naturally. It shows you that rushing rarely leads to truth, but reflection always does. So take time to be silent, not as an escape, but as a practice. Disconnect from the noise, even for a few minutes each day. Let your mind settle. Let your thoughts breathe. The answers you've been searching for are not hiding in the noise of the world. They're waiting in the quiet corners of your soul. Silence doesn't just calm your mind. It clears your vision, aligns your purpose, and reconnects you with the wisdom that was always within. In the end, it's in the silence that you stop chasing clarity and allow it to find you. When you focus on yourself, life begins to align in ways that almost feel effortless. Not because everything suddenly becomes easy, but because your energy, attention, and purpose begin to move in the same direction. You stop scattering your power by worrying about what others think, by comparing, or by chasing approval. Instead, you start nurturing what truly matters: your peace, your growth, your goals, and your healing. When your inner world becomes stable, your outer world naturally starts to reflect that balance. Alignment is not something you chase. It's something you create through focus and self-awareness. Most people live their lives outwardly. They measure their worth through other people's opinions, social validation, or material achievements. They focus on the noise: who's ahead, who's watching, who's talking. But the more you look outward, the more you lose connection with yourself. When you finally turn that energy inward and begin focusing on becoming the best version of you, everything starts to shift. You begin to see that peace is not found in control, but in surrender, in trusting that the universe moves in your favor when you move with purpose. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean being selfish. It means taking responsibility for your own energy. It means understanding that your happiness, your healing, and your success are your job, not anyone else's. When you prioritize your growth, you start showing up differently. You speak with more intention. You love more authentically. You work with more clarity. The people and opportunities that once drained you begin to fade, and those that match your new frequency naturally find their way to you. That's what alignment truly is, when your energy matches your desires. When you focus on yourself, you stop chasing what isn't meant for you. You begin to trust timing. You learn to walk away from things that don't align with your peace. Instead of forcing outcomes, you allow them to unfold. Life starts to flow because you're no longer swimming against the current. You're no longer trying to make others see your worth. You know your worth. And that confidence changes everything. You stop settling for less than what you deserve because you finally understand what you bring to the table. Self-focus also builds awareness. You start noticing your own patterns, how you react, what triggers you, and where your energy goes. That awareness helps you break cycles that once held you back. You begin to understand that your outer experiences are reflections of your inner state. If your life feels chaotic, it's often because your mind and emotions are unbalanced. But when you take time to nurture your inner peace through silence, reflection, discipline, or self-care, life responds. You attract clarity, opportunities, and people who align with your growth. When you focus on yourself, you also reclaim your power from the past. You stop blaming others for your pain and start asking, what can I learn from this? Every challenge becomes a mirror showing you where you still need healing.
Every disappointment becomes an invitation to rise higher. Growth becomes personal, not performative.
You begin to realize that every step you take towards self-improvement sends a signal to the universe that you're ready for more.
And the universe responds to readiness, not noise. The beauty of focusing on yourself is that you no longer rush.
You understand that real transformation takes time. You learn to enjoy your own company, to find peace in solitude, and to be patient with your process.
You begin to move from survival to creation, not just reacting to life, but shaping it. The people who are meant to be in your life will align with you naturally. You won't have to force connections or beg for attention. Energy always attracts its match. So when you focus on you, your healing, your discipline, your purpose, life aligns. The right doors open, not because you chased them, but because you became the kind of person who's ready to walk through them.
The wrong people fall away, not because you pushed them out, but because your vibration no longer matches theirs. The peace you once searched for externally starts to live within you. That's the quiet miracle of alignment. The world outside begins to reflect the calm and clarity you've built inside.
When you focus on yourself, life doesn't just shift, it transforms. You stop living by reaction and start living by intention. You become magnetic, grounded, and unshakable. And that's when life starts saying yes, not because you demanded it, but because you finally became aligned with everything you were meant to receive.